Why are you even serving him? People like you should know better." The words cut through the diner like a knife. Everyone turned to look, some with disgust, some with pity, as a young black waitress placed a warm plate in front of a ragged man sitting alone. Day after day, she chose kindness, even when the world around her spat in her face. But what no one knew was that this beggar carried a secret powerful enough to shatter every cruel assumption. What was he hiding, and why did he choose her? Her name was Maya, a 26-year-old waitress working double shifts at a small-town diner. The job barely paid enough to keep the lights on in her modest apartment, but Maya carried herself with quiet strength. Every morning, she tied her apron, pasted on a smile, and walked into a place where she was often treated as if she didn't belong. Some customers would whisper when she passed, others spoke to her like she was invisible. And yet, no matter how heavy the weight of their words, Maya refused to let bitterness define her. It was during one of those long shifts, while wiping down tables after the breakfast rush, that she noticed him for the first time, a frail man sitting on the curb outside, clothes torn, face weathered by years of hardship. People crossed the street to avoid him. Some laughed, some muttered insults under their breath. But Maya saw something different. She saw hunger in his eyes, not just for food, but for dignity. And so, without a second thought, she carried a plate of scrambled eggs and toast outside and placed it in front of him. "Here," she whispered, "eat while it's warm." The man's hands trembled as he accepted the plate. Why are you helping me?" he asked, voice rough like gravel. Maya smiled softly, because everyone deserves kindness. She didn't know then that this small act would ripple far beyond that curb. She didn't know it would set the stage for whispers, stares, and cruelty sharper than any knife, and that the man she chose to feed carried a truth that would change her life forever. The next morning, Maya carried another plate outside. The same man sat there, his thin frame curled against the cold bricks of the diner wall. She set the plate in front of him again. He looked up at her, eyes glassy, as if he couldn't believe this was happening 2 days in a row. "Don't get used to it," she teased softly, but her smile betrayed her heart. He chuckled, a sound rough but warm. For weeks this became their ritual. Every morning, before the lunch crowd poured in, Maya would sneak him a plate, sometimes eggs, sometimes soup, sometimes a biscuit wrapped in napkins if she couldn't risk being caught. But of course, people noticed. One afternoon, as Maya refilled coffee for a table of businessmen, she heard the sharp scrape of a chair behind her. Her manager, Mr. Harlan, stood with his arms folded, his face red with irritation. "Maya," he said loudly, "a word." She followed him into the back, her stomach tight. "Are you feeding that beggar again?" His tone wasn't curious, it was accusing. She froze. "He's hungry, sir. It's just leftovers." "Leftovers or not, you're making this place look bad," he snapped. "Customers don't want to see you giving handouts to some bum out front." Maya's jaw tightened. "He's a human being." Mr. Harlan leaned in close, his voice low but venomous. "And you're already on thin ice here. Don't forget where you stand. A black waitress doesn't get to bend the rules." The words strung like a slap. She wanted to argue, but the truth was she needed this job. Rent was due, bills were piling up. So she nodded quietly, "Yes, sir." But that night, when her shift ended, she slipped the man a paper bag with half a sandwich inside. His grateful smile erased her fear for the moment. The cruelty, however, only grew. Customers began to whisper louder, making no effort to hide their contempt. "Look at her," one woman muttered, loud enough for Maya to hear, "wasting food on trash when she should be doing her job." Another man sneered, "Figures, she'd rather serve him than paying customers." Even some of her co-workers started mocking. "Got yourself a new boyfriend?" one snickered. "Hope he tips better than the rest of us." Each remark cut deeper, but Maya refused to stop. The beggar, whose name she had learned was Thomas, began speaking more with her. He told her bits of his past, a job lost, a family gone, nights spent in shelters where doors were locked before he could find a bed. "You don't owe me this," he said one evening, clutching the warm cup of coffee she slipped him. Maya shook her head. No, but maybe the world does, and until it makes it right, I'll do what I can. What she didn't know was that eyes were always watching. One evening, as she set the plate down, a customer snapped a photo through the diner window. That photo would spread faster than she could imagine, igniting both outrage and ridicule. Maya had no idea yet, but her quiet act of kindness was about to drag her into the storm of public shame and push Thomas to reveal the truth he'd been hiding all along. It all came crashing down one Friday evening. The diner was packed, every booth filled, the air buzzing with chatter and clinking silverware. Maya had just set a plate of pancakes in front of Thomas when a sharp voice pierced the room. There she is, feeding her little pet again. A man stood up from his table, waving his phone in the air. On the screen was the very photo that had been circulating online, Maya kneeling beside Thomas, handing him food. Laughter and murmurs spread like wildfire. She's making a fool of this place, another customer jeered. Probably stealing from the register to feed him, someone else spat. Maya's chest tightened. She tried to steady her breathing, but then her manager stormed out from the kitchen. Maya, his face was red with rage. You're done here, pack your things. Her hands shook, for showing kindness. For embarrassing this business, for dragging our name through the mud. You think you're some kind of savior, you're nothing but a liability. His words echoed across the diner, and no one came to her defense. Maya's eyes strung, but she stood her ground. If feeding a hungry man costs me my job, then so be it. The room went silent. For a moment, even the air felt heavy. And then Thomas rose slowly from his seat. His voice, though rough, carried a quiet authority. You all think she's a fool for helping me, he said, scanning the room, but you don't know who I am or what I have. The crowd exchanged confused glances. Thomas straightened, his posture shifting, dignity radiating from a man they had dismissed as worthless. I've stayed silent long enough, but it's time you all knew the truth. The diner froze, forks hovering in midair, whispers dying in their throats. Maya turned to him, her heart pounding. What truth? She whispered. Thomas's next words would shatter every assumption in that room and change Maya's life forever. The diner was silent, every eye fixed on Thomas as he spoke. I'm not the man you think I am, he said firmly. Yes, I've known hunger. Yes, I've slept on sidewalks you wouldn't even walk across. But once I was a businessman. I built companies, created jobs, and I lost it all. Not because I was lazy, not because I was worthless, but because people with power decided a man like me didn't deserve a second chance. They stripped me of dignity until I became invisible. Gasps rippled through the room. Maya stood frozen, her heart pounding. Thomas turned toward her, his voice softened. But she saw me. When the world spat on me, when people crossed the street, she treated me like I still mattered. That kind of courage, you can't buy it, and you can't fake it. He pulled a folded check from his pocket and placed it in Maya's trembling hands. And now, it's my turn to see her. The diner erupted, some in disbelief, others in shame. Mr. Harlan's face turned pale, his anger drowned out by murmurs of regret. For the first time, the cruelty they had spewed looked small and pathetic. Maya stared at the check, but it wasn't the money that broke her. It was the realization that kindness, the very thing mocked and ridiculed, had revealed the truth about everyone in that room. She left the diner that night not just with a gift, but with a lesson etched into her soul. Racism blinds people to humanity until kindness forces them to see what they tried to ignore. And here's the truth. Maya's story is not just hers. Every day, people are judged by their skin, their job, or the clothes they wear. Too often, compassion is treated like weakness. So ask yourself this: when you see someone in need, will you turn away or will you choose to see them? Because sometimes, one act of kindness can shatter prejudice and change a life forever.